Hi, I'm Joshua Curving, and welcome to another Death Battle prediction video. But first, we have the season finale from last year. I do apologize for not really having as much time for any between season content as much as I would have. I did end up having a very busy time with work, and it wasn't exactly feasible for me to do. But here we are. So first, we'll talk about Saitama versus Popeye, which is probably the best episode of last year. It ended up being pretty much exactly what it needed to be. It gave Saitama the respect that he needed, while also just kind of going into how bullshit Popeye is. The animation itself was pretty stellar. The only complaint that I have is that during the 3D section, some of the segments were a little bit hard to follow, probably because of the space background with the speed lines in front and then like debris and shit flying everywhere. It was very busy. But other than that, it was absolutely fantastic. Liam actually did a really good job as Popeye himself. Yeah, just all around great time. Probably in the top 10, maybe top 5 episodes of the show total. Just really well done one all around. And then we come back to it for this season with Harley Quinn versus Jinx. So, the first big question for this one is what you are including for each of them. There's a lot of people who have varying opinions on what should be given to each character. You have some people who say that Jinx should be given everything up to fucking Star Guardian skins, which are just blatantly alternate universe skins of the characters, which shouldn't be the case, obviously. And then you have basically the polar opposite, where people say that the only thing that she should really be getting is the game lore and the comics, which is the most central canon. I lie a bit more in the middle. I think giving her most things is fine for ability clarification and stuff like that. But I do not agree with things like scaling her based on characters in, say, the Wild Rift trailer. I don't think that is a valid method of scaling because it's not meant to actually be in the canon of the game. Arcane is another very interesting one because it's expressly stated to be non-canon, but I think it is fine to use. It's essentially the reason for her popularity. So, and then you come to what Harley Quinn gets, but DC character, we've kind of already figured this out. As for who I think is going to win, I personally, at the moment, lean towards Harley. Just because of, as far as you have both of them, as long as you are giving them both the same treatment, Harley is going to basically always be ahead. If you go crazy and start scaling Jinx up to Aurelion Sol because of gameplay, then you can basically just pull out, okay, but Harley Quinn has a lantern ring and blitzed Wonder Woman one time. You don't want to play that game with a DC character of all fucking characters. And then on the lower end, when you start having just the more minor things, you start getting into just bit higher characters who have higher feats. And then everyone in DC has some scaling chain that can be used to justify basically whatever stats. But I think with consistency in mind, Harley does end up pulling ahead just a little bit. The biggest thing that I see being an issue is the Joker toxin should be a one-hit kill, essentially. Unless they start saying that, the gas in Zaun is equivalent, which I don't think is reasonable, or that Shimmer somehow makes her not die from it. Who knows? And then there are some scaling chains that I've seen for Jinx that are just nonsensical. One of them is So Malphite has a vague town level, not even a feat really, but just because of his real size in the lore. He's actually, like, really big. And then they used an ad where I think it's Jarvan was fighting Malphite at, like, the League of Legends size, so not mountain-sized. But then they use that to somehow get to Jinx, and it just doesn't make sense. It's basically going by gameplay and, like, game ads. So I don't think that one can be used, especially because League of Legends has retconned itself multiple times, and a lot of this stuff is even pre-retcon, so not part of the character anymore. The other one that people have been talking about that has a bit more teeth to it is, so with Hextech in general, the fact that Jinx has a more pure, refined Hextech that should be stronger than other Hextech. And then they compare it to the Hextech used by Miss Fortune against, what's his name? Viego, I believe his name is, who apparently has some decently strong, like, city-level feats that, if you scale Jinx to those because this Hextech damaged him, then essentially that would put him... But I don't necessarily buy into the fact that you can scale the Hextech like that, because if you're using different devices that are built with the same energy source, they can still be different in power. Just because you have two things that use batteries doesn't make them the same level of power. So I don't really think that one, but if Death Battle ends up going that route, I am curious what that will mean going forward, because energy source scaling has always been a little bit fucky. Beyond that, I just kind of don't see a lot of the arguments that people have for League, and that is part of the fact that the lore is very disjointed. You have a lot of characters that don't interact, you have a lot of... like, the gameplay is effectively non-canon for League of Legends, which is a big problem for it. So I think ultimately Harley is going to come out on top, just because of the fact that she has superior scaling and just DC stuff, where the comics just have these nanosecond feats where she'll just blitz Wonder Woman or something, and then when you get to the high end, you just have shit like lantern rings and stuff like that. You can even bring it down to the more mundane level, like Harley, like, enjoys being electrocuted and it doesn't really harm her very much. And then all of Jinx's arsenal is long-ranged, so with superior speed and combat experience, Harley can just easily get in and basically wreck shop, and Jinx wouldn't be able to get away from that. So the experience advantage is definitely in Harley's court. The arsenal is definitely in her court as well. I just kind of... If it comes down to the numbers specifically, I would be surprised if Harley lost. It would basically need to be some feat that a lot of people hadn't found, frankly. Which has happened before, but we'll see if it happens again. And that is going to do it for this time, and I will see you guys for the next one.